Hey everyone. So I wanted to do a quick video about the public update preview, but before I do it, I wanted to actually talk about the reaction and the response to a lot of these updates that are going to be coming out soon. Now, this is my understanding of it. The game, the remaining players left in the game are going to have pushbacks to most of the changes that are happening now. And the reason being is the current players are the ones that actually enjoy the current gameplay. But we've already lost, I would say, more than 50% of the player base because a lot of the players who have left us don't actually enjoy the game the way it is right now. And I want to put a little caveat. I mean, I feel like the game is getting better every patch that goes on, but the game is drifting from its core design every patch that goes on as well. And what do I mean by that is when the game was first released, Age of Mythology, the emphasis was upon myth units and mythology, right? Really strong god powers, really strong myth units. That was the core design of the game. But what's happened was a lot of people did not enjoy that aspect of the game. They thought myth units were too strong, mythology was too strong, and that took away a lot of the strategy and the gameplay elements of Age of Mythology Retold. So every patch you can kind of see that things are getting toned down more and more and more, right? So the vast majority of the base that's left, this is catering to them, but they're no longer playing and they're probably not that vocal anymore, so they're not going to be able to support these changes. The people that are here still are the ones that are going to be fighting for these changes because they're the ones that are still playing and they like the game in its current state. However, I think we're slowly drifting to the point where this game is going to become like the older, well, extended edition or Rubly, and it's just going to be completely irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And it's going to be too late at some point. Like if we look at the Steam chart numbers, it's abysmal, right? You can see we've gone from, and be it, I know that Age of Mythology is not going to be like this mainstream, big, huge game like AoE 4 or AoE 2. It's always going to be a little bit smaller, but we're like bleeding players at this point, right? Every single month we're bleeding players. And this is normal. AoE 4 had the same problem too, and they bounced back. And I'm sure that Age of Mythology can bounce back too. I think we have maybe there's going to be another DLC or there's going to be some new civilizations added or something. If the game is in a fun state and you launch these DLCs, you're giving a second chance to Age Mythology, right? You're giving a second. A lot of these players are going to try it, give it another chance, and if they enjoy it, they're going to stick around. So we have a couple more chances of bouncing back from these lows, but overall, it's not going in a good direction. So that's my little caveat. Most of the time for the developers, if you're going to make drastic changes, you're going to get a lot of pushback because the players that are remaining in Age of Mythology Retold like the game for what it is right now. However, it's not being exposed to the vast majority of players that have already left, right? So I went to the community. I went to people that have played the game and they left, and I asked them different questions. I said, "Why did you leave?" Now, these are a little bit older. A lot of these are my friends. I'm just going to skim it, and you guys can pause the video if you want to actually read it. There's a lot of them, so I'm not going to read every single one because I want to go over the PUP. So here you go, right? Afim was a major AoE, AOM player, right? He was very, very active, and, this is something that I want to actually go over because Afim was one of us, and now he's no longer here. So, and you can see that AoE 4, he says everything has a counter. When he loses, he understands why. AOM, on the other hand, sometimes is just, you can't do anything. Balance is really terrible in a lot of aspects, and you're just going to die to some BS like Sphinxes, Minos, boosted god powers, etc., etc. So he just felt that it was really not really good balance, I would say, right? And you're never going to have good balance when you have like extremely strong god powers or myth units because it's going to be fine in some matchups, but it's going to be completely broken in other matchups, right? So we have Beastie Cutie. He's probably the biggest name in AoE 4 right now. Um, and, his is a little bit different, but you can also see like God powers being able to completely turn the game around was too much for him, right? You're gonna hear this as a recurring theme. I think most people feel the same way, right? This is another very important thing. I've tried to say this over and over again before the game was launched, but they need to put more emphasis on online multiplayer, right? They don't. I feel like they've just that's an afterthought for the developers. They've put a lot of emphasis on other aspects of the game, but they completely did not give a they did not care at all about online multiplayer. And the response usually is, why should we put why should we put our resources on online multiplayer when it's like 2% of the game population? But that 2% of the game population, and someone else was telling me this as well, I forgot who, that 2% or 1% of the game population is the one that promotes your games, right? Um, Me, boy, all of the other AOM streamers and whatnot, those are the people that keep the game alive. Those are the people that push YouTube content. And that's going to create those 2%. That 2% means a lot more than 2%. If you make the online experience more enjoyable, then people who play it are going to tell their friends, hey, come play, it's really fun, or et cetera, et cetera. And it's not hard, right? Like, this is true. The DK at the top level, I mean, I don't want to go too much into the top level because most of the people are watching are not really that competitive, I would say, or in the top 100, top 200 or whatever. But yeah, they needed to put a lot more emphasis on multiplayer. And then this another thing, the Chinese release. And a lot of people say they overly make China strong so they can sell DLCs, but I think that's a terrible approach because now people are going to get frustrated and leave, right? No one now the game the game dynamic has changed so much where in the past, Age of Mythology, there was only a handful of RTS games or a handful of fun games that you could play. But nowadays, there's thousands of games to choose from. No one's going to want to sit there and get abused by John Wick and lose an entire army for free, right? They're just going to quit and leave. They're not going to stick around. They're not going to work through these problems like the way they used to back in the day. Back in the day, if we had patches like once every 6 months or 5 months, so and then people didn't have other games that they can just leave and go on. There was limited options, so people would work and try to figure these things out. But nowadays, you can't do that. People are going to get frustrated and they're just going to quit. There's Iron Maiden as well. Same thing, like multiplayer options were not that good. Bugs are a big thing as well. Major issue, I think, in Retold. Every single patch they release has a bug in it. I'm not sure how they can get it right at this point. I'm sorry, devs. I just have to say it. Like, at this point, if I made this many mistakes in my job, I would be fired a long time ago. I can have a job. I can make a mistake 1 month. That's fine. Second month, maybe that's okay. But if it happens every single patch, every single month, I guaranteed you, I would not have a job. So I don't understand what's going on there. That needs to be looked at. Um, okay, so these are some of my Discord members that said I'm just going to skim through it. You guys can pause if you guys actually want to read it, but there's going to be a long video, so I'm not going to go through it too much in depth. I think there were more people that sent me stuff, and I just didn't. I can't find it right now, so yeah. Avely is a good friend of mine's. He went back to AoE4 as well. It's a modern experience, whereas AOM is old school RTS. Losing to random god powers instead of units also tilted a lot of players. So that's that. So, you know, a lot of you guys are probably going to say you like really strong god powers and you like a lot of um, strong myth units. But remember, the vast majority of players that were playing this game that gave it a chance did not like that, right? Now, here is where things get interesting. And let's go to the PUP, right? This is going to make it so you can have really strong god powers and really strong myth units, but you can still you can still have counterplay, right? So we're going to go into that a little bit in a sec, but um, I think this is a major thing that can actually change the way the game is played. Now, this is taking the game from what it is to a completely different field. This is not something that all the other patches were, let's say, they were very influential, they were very game changing, but nothing to the same scale as what's about to happen with the public update. So take a look here. Let's just go through it really quickly. This is what we've all I think most people have been waiting for, Fortification game pacing update. A lot of people, including myself, has said that, I don't know, I've said this ages ago, but there was just so much, it took so long to actually implement this, right? But you guys know towers, fortresses, they're just meh, right? In AOM. In other games, they're very, very strong. They do their job, but in AOM, they're just like tickling units rather than doing anything at all. And a lot of players like that because they said, we don't want a game where you have to sit back and there's buildings everywhere and you can't do anything. And I agree. I think that is not fun. But if you're going to make these changes, I think you can add an element of where siege gets buffed across the board as well. So now you actually have this triangle, right? So let's try in 1 second, guys. Let me just pull this up. I think this is the way it's supposed to work, right? You have so you have units here. You have siege here, and you have buildings here. Oh, where am I? I know I spelled that wrong, but it's okay. Units beats siege, siege beats buildings, and buildings beats units. This is the way I think an RTS should be played. This is how war is played, right? Um, this is just logical to me. However, what do you have right now? You have units beat this and units beat this. There's no triangle, right? Now, siege does beat buildings, kind of, not even really, because you can out-repair a lot of the siege damage that happens too. There are some good siege units. I think the Petropolis is a good one, but most of the time it's just, units are just going to bulldoze every single thing, regardless whether it's buildings or siege. It's just need mass units, sorry, mass units, and they're just going to run through everything. Yeah. Anyways, so let's go back into it. Buildings are now more resistant to hack damage with higher increases for some defensive buildings. I think this is a general overview. Let's actually go into the actual detail. Okay, good graphics changes, audio changes, hotkey changes, UI changes. You guys can read that over if you want later. Gameplay fixes. I'm not going to go into that right now, or else this video is going to be like half an hour long. All right, here we go. All buildings hack armor increase from 30 to 40%. So this is a building buff across the board, which is pretty huge. Towers hack armor increase from 30 to 50. Build points increase from 50 to 60, and damage increase from 5 to 8. Now this one, I don't know if, I think this might be a little overkill. I think the tower needs a lot more damage, but I also think it should be a lot weaker. So if units, you need to protect your towers. You can't just have your towers by themselves and they can just defend territory, raids, and stuff like that, right? You want to have towers that are kind of weak in a way, and like if units do get on top of them, but you want them to dish out a ton of damage like this. So I think we can kind of skip the extra hack armor. I think it's not really necessary, but I think this is key, right? You need more damage on these towers. These towers they don't do anything. They're just useless. I don't know if 8 is even 8 pierce damage. I guess it's like 1.5 toxitase. I guess it's not bad, but still. And the main issue with these towers actually is not even the damage. It's just the accuracy. They miss so many of their shots, right? I don't know if that's going to change in this patch. We're going to keep on reading, but I think it's just inconsistent. It feels very inconsistent, and it feels like I understand. I think cavalry should be able to dodge arrows unless you have crenellations. Um, that's the function of cavalry. They're fast. They can dodge arrows. That's logical. That's intuitive. I don't think any other unit should be able to dodge arrows. I think infantry, Toxicate, like these units should be hit. Or if they're not going to be hit 100% of the time, they should be hit like at least 80 to 90% of the time, something like this, right? Whereas if you're retreating, you can kind of get away. You don't lose. You still have the option of retreating, but you still get peppered when you go through a tower or something like that. That's my logic. I think that's more intuitive. Hack armor increase on fortress. I think this is okay. Like the sentry tower, no, but I think the fortress should be a little bit tankier. Town center hack armor increased as well. Now, watchtower went up in price, so it makes sense, right? You give it more damage, or you give it more HP, or rather, effective HP, and then the cost goes up. Makes sense to me, right? You can see it's a pretty big increase as well. I think that the pierce armor needs to, if you're not going to increase the pierce armor, I think something needs to be done about the track rating. If you get, I mean, now it's a pretty sizable investment. I think track rating needs to improve a little bit for the tower. There's a new technology, advanced fortifications, which improves fortress buildings damage by 30% and extra 10% on top of that for hack damage, vulnerability. Very, very expensive, but this is it's pretty good actually. And I think maybe it's necessary now, right? With such large population limits, I think it can be a good change. Um, Fishing train time increase from 15 to 18. Caravan train time increase from 15 to 18. And I think villagers somewhere down as well. So this is the biggest change I would say of the patch. Everything is the villager train time is being increased across the board, right? Whether it's fishing, caravans, or just regular villagers. And 3 seconds is a lot. This is gonna be very instrumental. But you see, like I think the game, everyone says, some people say they like a fast-paced game. Some people they say they like a slow-paced game. Um, I'm kind of in between, and I think right now the game is way too fast-paced. Fast-paced in certain areas, not every area, but I think this could be a good change as well. I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't think anyone really knows how it's going to play out, but we're going to see, right? Oh wow, gold gather rate. So this is a very good change as well. I felt like in the late game, caravans just didn't drop off enough gold, and I think this is a very, very good change. It's gonna allow you to have more armies in the late game, and you're gonna have more fights, and you're gonna have more. It's not gonna be just one battle and game over, right? You're gonna have more chances, which I think is uh, is the very, very enjoyable rather than just have one fight, it's all over and it's game over, right? Survival techniques cost increase. I'm not sure why though. I thought it was finally priced at 100, so I don't know about that one. I think it doesn't need to be done. This is a cool change. Every relic is going to give you a little bit of extra favor per second, so people have something more to fight about, right? Something like this becomes a little bit more instrumental. Relics become a little bit more, you know, this relic is okay. I'm not just going to ignore it, but now you probably don't want to ignore it. So you want to get as many relics as you can, which leads people to leave their bases. Good change, I think, overall. All right, so Greek infantry bonus damage with buildings increased from 50 to 60. Now this is for Zeus, and I think this is because all the buildings got stronger, so they don't want Zeus to lose his little bonus, right? So like they don't want Zeus to be indirectly nerfed. Let's put it that way. Okay, we talked about this as well. This is the biggest change, I would say. Villagers' train time is going to be increased. And here we go. Petropolis, crush damage increased from 44 to 55. Helopolis, same thing. Atalanta got nerfed a little bit. Centaur, these are all great changes. I was saying that this needs to be done from the get-go. Now Siege is way more useful, I would say. But I don't think, okay, here we go. Fortress, way more hit points on the fortress, way more damage on the fortress. And build points, okay, that's nothing. So like you see, buildings got way stronger, so did Siege, right? So this is an indirect nerf to units. I think this is the way to go. Now 15 damage, I think they shoot, it's going to be 45 damage a second, if I'm wrong. I think Fortress is going to be good. It's going to be in a good spot now. But I think the tower needs a little bit more of a buff. But I could be wrong about this. The issue with the tower is you buff it too well. If you give it too much damage, then the issue becomes that early game aggro is just completely nullified. So you don't want that. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm not sure if 8 pierce damage is enough. I don't know if I would still make a tower over making units, right? That's the main thing. I wish like some of the damage, like if you get crenellations and you got an extra 2 damage per second or so, oh sorry, 2 damage pierce, then you know it's not as strong in the early portion of the game, but it becomes a lot stronger in the mid portion of the game. I think something like that needs to be done. So more damage from crenellations and a little bit more accuracy, I would say. Let's keep on going. Cyclops damage area reduced. I think a lot of people are complaining about this. Like the splash damage from the Cyclops was just killing entire armies, but I haven't experienced it myself, so I don't know. Sarissa, cost increase from 125 wood to 20. I don't know if this was really needed, right? Oh, but it got buffed here, right? I guess Hoplites got buffed. What's happening? Oh, so this is all Sarissa. Okay, so Sarissa got I don't know. It got. It's more expensive now, but it's way better now too. I don't think this is needed, right? I think like Greek army is already really strong. So is this really necessary? I guess 5% damage. I don't know. I don't really know if this is necessary. Because like you have the shield and you have Sarissa. Like these two together make hoplites really strong, right? Um, and then Greek army has just been on a tear, as far as I can remember. In Spirited Charge, Centaur speed increased from 5 to 10. I don't know. I think it's fine. Okay, it's not like a massive thing, but I just don't know. Free Pegasus respawn delay increased from 10 to 90 seconds. Yeah, this is a good change because you know like when you kill that free Pegasus that Poseidon and Zeus or whatever had from Hermes, they would just respawn almost immediately. It's just pointless. I felt like why do I even bother trying to kill it? It's just pointless. So I think this is a great change. All right, Egyptians, labor. Okay, so that's the same. All of the villagers got increased by 3 seconds or so. Siege tower crush damage increased to 250. Catapult. I think this is good. These are good changes, but I think the siege tower needs a little bit. It needs something a little bit more, right? I don't because the reason why is it's very hard to push with the siege tower early on. I think it's just very vulnerable to villagers just sniping it down. It just feels a little bit too, what's the word? Not strong enough. Not a little too fragile. That's the word. Siege towers feel too fragile, and I think that they need a little bit more tankiness in order to do well. More than just damage alone. Damage isn't good, but I think they need some tankiness. War elephants bonus damage versus multipliers 3 to 4. Okay, that's a good change. Spearmen reduce hit points reduced from 85 to 80. I'm not sure. A lot of people have been complaining about Egyptian being OP or whatever. I mean, I haven't played that much recently, so I don't really know. But why don't we go and just check the stats, right? Where is Egyptians? We got Ra at the bottom, Set Isis in the middle here. So not really at the top. Let's go check a higher level. Let's say 1700. Let's see where Egyptians fall here. I know stats are not everything, but it's still nice to look at. And I mean, they do play a role. We'll just see what we're looking at here. Isis and Ra, they're still doing well now, 50%, so that's still good. We got Set at the very bottom here. I'm not sure what's happening there. And let's go at the very, very top. I would say this is like 0.001% of the population, right? It's going to be it's going to be a really small sample size though, so I don't know. We got Ra at the very top, surprisingly. Set at the bottom, Isis at the bottom. It's not enough games played. You can see 14 and 5, but where's the Egyptian dominance that everyone's been talking about? They're saying, oh, you know, this change is going to make Egyptians completely broken. Where's that? There is a tournament going on right now, which is Yodesla's. I forgot what it's called, but we're gonna go check. Let's check the tournament win rates after that and let's see. All right, so 1600. There's a pretty healthy sample size here, I would say. Ra's under 50%, Isis under 50%, and Set is under 50% as well. Okay, so I mean, based on that, I don't see any of the here. This is the one, Mythic Wars. So this is tournament gameplay. Isis is 50%, Ra is 36%. Set is doing well. Okay, so that's fair. Set is at 66%, but Odin and Freyr are doing a little bit better. You see, the problem with this is, let's just see who's playing Set first of all. Anyways, back to what we're talking about. The issue is Egyptians, and a lot of people misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying Egyptians are not strong, but and let me type this out because people are gonna just misunderstand all the time, and I have to reiterate this point. Egyptians Egyptians are not weak, but in order for them to be useful, they have to be played a certain specific way, right? People don't understand this. If you're abusing, so let me put it this way. So for example, there was an argument, right? Everyone's saying ISIS is so strong now, this is going to be the most broken god. It's impossible to play against ISIS. And I said, why? And they said, oh, because you can go to Mythic Age, you can get Value of the Kings, and it's just going to be impossible to beat ISIS when she does that. So I'm saying, okay, fine. Value of the Kings is really strong. Thoth is strong, but what about other things? What about playing ISIS just standard, trying to play her in classical, playing her in heroic, is she really broken then? And most people would say maybe not, right? Maybe she's only broken because you can go fast mythic and all that. So you're saying ISIS is broken under one circumstance, which is go Thoth, go mythic, Value of the Kings, spam chariot archers, win, right? Which other gods have these type of conditions? Which other, like, does if I'm playing Hades, do I have to do a certain thing in order to win, right? Probably not. If I'm playing Odin, do I have to do a certain thing in order to win? Probably not, I think. You can play these as generalist civs. These are generalists, right? This is ISIS is not really a generalist. It's a very specific civ with specific spelling, win conditions, whatever. I probably spelled it wrong. You have to play it in a certain way. And if you have a civilization that has to be played in a certain way in order for them to be good, then that civ is not a complete civ. And that's what I've been trying to say for a very, very long time. Now, there was this argument back in the day. I said Egyptians need need buffs. Other top players said no, because Egypt is the strongest civ. I said, why? They said, because if you do so and so or such and such strat, it's really strong. I said, then I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, nerf that really such and such strat or, that strat. Nerf the strat, buff everything else so the civ is more complete. But they would all say no, no, no. And then this civilization became like really, really strong at the very top levels and really, really weak at an average level. And you can see it in the win rates itself, right? So the problem is it also comes down to playstyles too. My playstyle is I'm a very generalist. I don't like to abuse random stuff, right? I like to play and win with decision making, skill, things like that. That's how I like to win. A lot of people like to win with strategy and tactics, and for them Egyptians are really broken because they have the strongest tactics in the game, right? Which is go mythic, do such and such, and win. I don't like playing in this like flowchart way. I like playing as a generalist. I like to be able to make good decisions overall. It could be in classical, heroic, or mythic, and win. So for me, Egyptians are not a complete civ. It's a civ that relies on tactics and gimmicks in order to win. And I guess I don't know how I got to this conclusion. I guess we're talking about the spearmen. So now, are the spearmen too good? I don't think they were. This is the thing. I don't think they were too good. I looked at the numbers. We look at the last video, right? I think they were still okay. The problem was people saying, "Oh, it's too fast for a generalist unit." Maybe, but like it didn't do that well in just a regular a battle compared to the other generalist infantry units. So, okay, fine. I don't see the data supporting this that Egyptians are too strong right now. Um, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't played that much recently. Just been getting killed at work recently, so maybe I'm wrong on that, but we'll see. Am I saying that spearmen don't need a nerf? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that every time Egyptians get buffed, you're gonna hear the same people saying, "No, don't buff them. They're too strong," or etc. But the reason they're too strong is because they have specific strategies that are very, very strong. Are they strong from a generalist point of view? I'm not so sure. Okay, anyways, moving on. Migdo strongholds. Hit points increase, damage increase, build points increase, each workshop build. Okay, so just all the fortress type buildings are going to get buffed, right? This is a huge change. Watchtower costs 100 golds for Egyptians now. So this is a massive change. I think this is kind of okay because, in the old version of Age of Mythology where Egyptians got free towers, back then, the Egyptians were the weakest early game civ. Now they're one of the strongest early game civs, so it doesn't make sense to give them the towers for free as well. The only thing I'm worried about is casuals sometimes played Egyptians for these free towers, right? Makes their lives a little bit easier, so they're going to be a little bit upset with this, but overall, I think this is a fair change. Why should the strongest or one of the strongest early game civs also have free towers, right? Doesn't make sense logically for me. Um, Plague of Serpents, this is really, really strong on water. I also don't like it on land. I think it's just really annoying. It's just a frustrating thing to play with because you get like 12 snakes, and by the time you have to kill all these snakes, it just feels like a waste of time. And I think in games and like any type of game, you want to be having fun the vast majority of times, right? Making good decisions is fun. But when you're just looking at one side of your screen and trying to kill all these annoying snakes for like 30, 40 seconds or 30 seconds, it just feels like non-value added time. So I don't think this is a fun element to gameplay, having all these snakes. I think they should come down and be a little bit stronger. Okay, Thought Meteor not doesn't do as much damage versus farms. Norse, same thing. Train time increase. Portable. I think the portable RAM was actually pretty good, so I think this is a good change as well. The Valk hack armor. Interesting. First time the Valk got nerfed. Yeah, this is a good change. I like it. Nidhogg got buffed. Oh, interesting. I guess this makes sense because Greek heroes got buffed as well, right? So now Nidhogg got buffed. I think Egyptians did well versus Nidhogg with priests. Greeks did very poorly, but now might do fine because of the buffs. Other Norse can just go Goaty and stuff, so I think they're fine there. And then Chinese have some of the best, I think some of the best heroes. I don't know. They have the Immortals, which is good. So yeah. Or not the Immortals, the Pioneers, sorry. Okay, Hero Forts went up in damage as well, like the other ones. Same thing. Great Hall. No longer researches 1.5 times faster. I actually didn't know that. Interesting. Cess Runner, research time 30 to 20. Thundering Hooves. North's got a pretty good set of buffs here, I'd say. Forest Fire now does more damage, but less damage to villagers. That's a good change, I think, as well. Yeah, I think that's a good change. Odin got a little bit of a food nerf, which is fair. Citizen train time increased from 25 to 30. I wonder if this is a little bit of a buff compared to the other ones. I'd have to, I don't know. I don't have the energy to think right now. Fire Siphons, yeah. Terma. Terma got buffed. Okay, interesting. Destroyer Heroes, bonus damage. Okay, that's fine. This destroyers are going to be really good now, I think. They're already good in armies, right, as a meat shield, and now you can just take down buildings with them too. Fanatic train time reduced. Oh, it increased. Train time increased. I think that's, I don't know. Okay, so it's 8.5 seconds to create them now, which is good. Dryad's got a little bit of a buff. Good. I think this is a good change. Sentimanus, hit points increased. Okay, good change, I would say as well. All right, this video is getting a little bit long, so I'll rush a little bit. Palace got buffed the same way as the other ones. All right, Halo of the Sun adjusted. Increases Arcus range. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, wow. This is a good change. So this is the buff to a minor god, Helios. It's going to give Arcus more range and more damage. These are good changes, I think. I think this is a good one. Arcus didn't really have anything to give them a little bit of an extra damage boost versus like whereas other archers kind of did. Like Toxic, they have a whole host of buffs, right? Or technologies that give them damage increases. Chariots don't really have anything either. They have the bone bow, which gives more range but not more damage. So this is gonna, I think this is a step in the right direction. Gonna skip that one. Tartarian Gate got buffed. Okay. I think, yeah, I think it was a little bit on the weaker side. Cooldown reduced from 120 to 60. This is going to be kind of crazy to see. Like if it's a 50-50 game and your opponent can teleport all around the map every 60 seconds, it's just going to be very, very difficult to deal with. I think people are sleeping on this right here. Vortex, I think, is it was already a good god power. I just think that everything else outshined it, but I don't think it was broken by any means. Sorry, it wasn't weak by any means. All right, Chinese. Building emplacements cost discount reduced from 50 to 25. Okay, I think interesting. Okay. Fusi got a little bit of a nerf, I think. Units peasants 815 to 18. Kaofu 30 to 36. Okay. Siege crossbow crush damage, that's a good change. Axe cart crush damage, that's a good change as well. Fire archer adjusted as follows. Range reduced from 16 to 12. Wow. That's massive change. Line of sight reduced from 18 to 16. Fire archers have their range increased by 1, 1, 1. Okay. They got them. They got most of it back, I guess. Hack armor increased. Holy. 10 to 25. Pierce. I guess since it has less range, you know, it's just going to get, it's going to be too squishy. So they gave it some more hack armor. Okay. That makes sense. Chukunu range increased from 15 to 16. Javelins attack speed increased from 1.5 to 1.2. Okay, these are good changes, I think, overall. Hit points increased from 165 to 170 for the Tiger Calf. The Tiger Calf got buffed, eh? Okay. Qlin, okay, this thing was annoying. I think this is the flamethrower one, right? Cost increased from 210 food to 220 food, 18 favor. Oh, that's not enough, I think. This thing is still super annoying to deal with. I guess it's kind of okay because China has like if you go mass myth units, then they can't go Kaofu, which is another one of their bonuses. So it's kind of a little bit of a trade-off there. But I think it just did too much. Its flamethrower did way too much damage. Uh, I think a lot of times people don't like mass splash damage units, right? It's good to have one or two in them in the game, but having so many of them, it just becomes really frustrating to play with, right? Um, Especially like when players are new and they don't know the ways to deal with it and the counters and stuff, they're just going to get frustrated. You don't want to have too much splash unit. So if you have like 3 or 4 of these, it's just going to melt entire armies, right? I think. So I think developers need to be mindful of that. Things that these are too frustrating. I remember playing StarCraft 2. I don't know if you guys have as well, but people were so frustrated with banelings just insta killing an entire army, right? Obviously, this is not that bad, but these things become frustrating over time. All right, Pixu got buffed because everything else got buffed in terms of trade. Yang, so this is John Wick, right? Yang Jian. Damage area reduced from 4 to 3. Damage area reduced from 4 to 3. Okay. I think it's still, this guy's way too strong still, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Wenzong, this guy was too tanky. He went down to 500 hit points. I still think he's too tanky, I think. It just has too much armor. I don't know. I think these guys are still a little bit too strong, but we'll see. Because China, you see, the thing is, I don't want overly strong units, right? And just to compensate for the civilization's weakness. So let's say a civilization is 40% win rate. But so okay, so if they're 40% win rate, you're like, okay, I want to buff this civilization. So let's give them a superhero that can do everything. And that way they're going to go from 40 to 45%, right? Win rate or something like that. I think that's a lazy way to balance the game. I think you have to look at the issues with the civ. And okay, this civilization has no counterplay in the heroic age or has no ability, its units are not good, in the long term, or its units are too expensive. Look at the actual fundamental reasons why the civilization is struggling, rather than just give them like super units that just gonna help their win rate, sure, but it's just gonna create so much frustration. Yinglong, this is the dragon, right? 2,400 hit points. This dragon is it's not as tanky as Nidhogg, but I think it's way better than Nidhogg. It has a well, I think forget about the slow. Like, I mean, even when this thing is low on HP or whatever, you just bring it back to your base and then you can just get a bonus on farms, right? So I think it's okay. Yazi's got buffed. Bonus damage for its myth units increased. Okay, this could be interesting. Could be frustrating to you as well, because you won't be able to have any. You won't be able to make your own myth units now versus this. If someone's going mass Yazis, you can't really go centaurs anymore. You can't go. There's a lot of myth units. You can't go minotaur raiding anymore. You can't do anything, right? It's just gonna shut down all It's gonna shut down all myth unit aggro from the other side. Rather, this unit gets changed differently. Keep the 2x multiplier versus myth units. Mm, maybe the hit points is enough, I think. And just make it cheaper to make or something like that. I don't know. The problem is like this god power, sorry, this myth unit requires another 2 upgrades for the unit to be fully complete, right? That's what creates the issue for the Yazis being effective. It's so much of an investment, and if you don't get any damage off with them, then they become kind of useless. That's the biggest problem with them. Anyways, Ballet got buffed like all the other ones. Okay, military camp, training yard reduced from 150 to 75. Okay, that's a good change. I think it was too expensive, training yards. These are good changes. See, these are actual core fundamental changes that help the civilization in every stage of the game. Whereas the super unit gives them like crazy late game with the it just kills everything. But that's not fun because then that's only attributable to one portion of the game. Whereas this is going to be beneficial for the civilization across the board on every stage of the game. So these are the type of changes we need. We don't want like super units, I would say. Have a very, very strong, cool unit, yes. Super units, I don't think so. Like Bellerophon, like that jump that just jumps on myth units and kills them or does a lot of damage. That's a cool unit. It has a cool use for it. Or Petrification, that's a cool unit, right? It's not overly strong. It has a specific use. Um, So these are the type of things I think we need. Have something cool about the unit, but don't make it like crazy strong where it can just like solo entire armies. Okay, so keep on going. Bloodline, cost reduced, okay. I don't think this makes a difference in the Mythic Age. I guess the favor kind of helps a little bit. Oh, this is a big difference. Imperial Order cost reduced from... Okay. Great Flood. Crush damage versus buildings increased from 1,000 to 1,400. Okay. Divine damage versus units reduced from 2 to 1 per second. Well, I don't think this is the problem, guys. I think with Great Flood, the issue is if you use it the right way and you shift your units, your opponent's units onto you, then you're just gonna everything's just gonna die, right? It's because they can't fight you and you can fight him. Units should become like invulnerable, I think, when Great Flood is happening, so that people can't just like kill your entire army while they can't even fight back. But most people are not using this correctly, so I think it's going to be okay. But I think units should be invulnerable when Great Flood is happening, or if they get caught in the flood. All right, campaigns, random maps, modding. Okay, it's been a long video, guys, and I actually have to go right now anyways. So thank you for watching. Let me know your comments. Let me know if you agree or disagree. And I will see you guys hopefully when this patch actually releases. I will start playing again and work won't be so bad for me. All right, guys. Bye.